Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Man, do we have an incredibly moving story lined up for you today. It's all about sheer, unfiltered willpower. Seriously, if you've ever felt like the odds were just completely stacked against you or like your environment was dragging you down, well, this story is exactly what you need to hear. Because sometimes, when literally everyone else is saying no, you just gotta believe in yourself. We're gonna walk through how one young guy navigated some truly extraordinary hardships, step by step.
There's this really powerful saying, dreaming is easy, but actually fulfilling those dreams, that's something only a few can really pull off. And that brings us straight into the harsh but super resilient reality of a young boy named Arif. Look, at pretty much every single step of his journey, he was stopped. There were roadblocks everywhere. But the core theme we're unpacking today is how, despite the constant heavy friction of his environment, the guy just never learned how to stop himself.
So, Arif lived in a tiny village, and as you might imagine, his day-to-day life was incredibly simple. I mean, there were absolutely zero luxuries to fall back on here. But the personal responsibilities resting on his young shoulders, they were just massive. He wasn't just some student who could focus purely on hitting the books. No, he was a vital, working component of his family's actual survival. And that stark contrast, that really sets the baseline for the immense friction he had to push through.
Okay, let's dive into this timeline to really grasp his grueling routine. In the morning, he's at school. By evening, he's doing heavy physical labor right alongside his dad. And night? Well, that's his only window, just a tiny, precious bit of time he managed to carve out for studying. I mean, just think about the physical and mental toll of that relentless cycle. There is no downtime, there is absolutely no break to just be a normal kid. And this wasn't just a bad week. This was his permanent, everyday reality.
Naturally, when you sacrifice literally all of your free time, people are going to notice. His friends would often kind of mock him, asking, "Why do you work so hard? What do you actually want to do in life?" They saw the relentless struggle, but they completely missed the vision. Arif, though, he just offered this faint smile. He didn't feel the need to justify himself or try to put his massive dreams into words. His answer lived entirely in his unshakable determination and his silent, clear intentions. He just let his actions do the talking.
And that brings us to a true crucible moment in Arif's life. Picture this. It's a freezing night, the wind is just howling, and the power has gone out in the village. Now, that's a common thing there, but it's totally devastating when the late night is literally your only dedicated time to learn. But instead of just throwing in the towel and going to sleep, Arif went outside. He sat down by the side of the road, right under a flickering streetlight, and just continued to read. Despite the biting, freezing cold, he had this unique, undeniable spark in his eyes.
It is nearly impossible to hide that kind of relentless, agonizing drive from the people who love you the most. Seeing him out there shivering under that streetlight, his mother approached him, and she asked so tenderly, "Son, you must get tired, right?" It's just a quiet, deeply heartbreaking moment. She saw the bone-deep exhaustion that he absolutely refused to acknowledge, and the physical toll of his late-night studying was clearly deeply worrying his family. So the crucial point is Arif's response, because it completely defines him. He said, "I do get tired, mother, but I don't want to stop." Just let those words sink in for a second. He doesn't deny the fatigue. He fully acknowledges the pain and the tiredness, but his internal resolve is simply louder than his exhaustion. This specific, quiet exchange really fortified his own internal foundation. By vocalizing that determination right in the face of his fatigue, he cemented his absolute resolve to succeed. As time passed, there was no sudden windfall or stroke of luck. The obstacles were just constant. On one side, he had the looming shadow of an empty pocket. Poverty was constantly threatening his education. And on the other side, the pointing fingers and whispers of a society telling him a boy from his background simply shouldn't dream so big. But through all of these relentless hurdles, Arif never abandoned his ultimate weapon, his absolute, unwavering self-belief. He just tuned out the noise. And then one day, the results arrived. This is the pivot. All of those mornings at school, those exhausting evenings working with his dad, those freezing nights shivering under the streetlight, it all culminated inside this single moment. Everything he worked for was right there, waiting to be opened. And this brilliantly illustrates his incredible leap. He literally went from studying under a flickering streetlight in a tiny village with zero electricity to getting selected into the biggest, most prestigious college in the entire city. I mean, wow. That same Arif who had absolutely nothing but a bulb and his textbooks had officially broken through the massive barriers of his circumstances. The transition from that dark, freezing night to the bright, promising halls of a top-tier college is just spectacular. It proves, without a doubt, that consistent effort truly compounds into massive results. Picture him standing on that massive college stage. The crowd is just erupting in applause, cheering for the boy from the village. And instead of boasting about all his hard work, he delivers this incredibly empowering, humble line. He says, "I am no one special. I just never considered myself small." What a profound statement. He didn't think he had magical talents or unfair advantages over anyone else in that room. He just absolutely refused to let his circumstances dictate his self-worth. He never let the smallness of his village or the emptiness of his pockets shrink the size of his mind. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember Arif's journey. Yes, the path you're on right now might be incredibly difficult. It might be filled with dark nights, total exhaustion, and doubting voices. But the destination? It is never impossible if you simply refuse to stop. So, I leave you with this. What is the streetlight in your life right now? And are you willing to sit under it long enough to get where you need to go?